Hello, welcome back to the Raw podcast. Fresh off a fantastic win against Bournemouth, we're bringing you another live Q&A. So get your comments and thoughts, questions in on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I am joined today by Taff and Michael. How are we both doing?
Very happy. How can we not be?
What is happening at this football club? It's just insane, isn't it?
Well, everything that has gone before has been shattered. All past histories and expectations are thrown in the bin, and we are making something new, a new period. My son will grow up imagining that we are always great, and he will not understand me when I don't believe in the future.
I mean, my son's like, how old is he now? 12 weeks or something, and I think we've been outside of the top four for maybe he's like 15 days of that 10 weeks. It's insane. I've never known anything like it, Michael.
This is why I've said to you before that it's your fault for not having a kid earlier when we were in the League One days, and then we could have been mint a lot sooner. You know, just ignore whether you were ready or not and how big a responsibility it is. But you know, to be fair, like I mean, I was just doing a stream on I think it was Fans React. I was just on not long ago, and one of the lads called Gary, who's a great lad, mentioned like when you think about it, the last 6 months in particular has just been the best but most bonkersly brilliant roller coaster that you could probably ever really think of. When you think about the starting in the playoffs, you beat a team that you haven't beaten for goodness knows how many years, probably felt like 20 years at that point. And then
we'd actually never beaten them at their place either, I don't think.
Have we not?
There was some mad statistic, wasn't there? I remember doing the digging at the time, but our record against Coventry was absolutely atrocious for about 30 years.
Shambolic to say the least. But you do that, and then you end up, what is it? Obviously, you score winners in both games in the last minute, effectively, and then you win the playoff final, the supposed richest game in football in the last minute, which is just outstanding, really. And then on top of that, 22 points after a third of the way through the Premier League. Yeah, I think this is the point where I'm thinking, right, the crack cocaine's got to stop now. We need to wake up. But no, let's stay asleep as long as possible because it's about time we had something good to enjoy.
You know, all that till the end stuff, it's marvellous, but I don't actually want anybody to tell me when the end is coming. I don't want there to be an end. I don't want to the end is fine, but that kind of makes it feel like it's going to stop at some point. And I don't want it to.
No, absolutely. Well, let's get into some of the questions. There's a few trickling through on YouTube, but we'll start with Twitter. And my mate Ian Dobson asks, have we had a manager before who can change things mid-game as effectively as Regis Lebris? He's shown it on a number of occasions. Swansea last season, Middlesbrough away, and coming from behind in so many games this season. I mean, Taff, that triple sub that he made paid dividends in the end, didn't it? And I've actually seen on social media fans of other clubs sort of lamenting that their managers don't make enough changes early enough, particularly Burnley at the moment, I think, with Scott Parker. Whether they've got the depth on the bench is another story, but Lebris really, really trusts a lot of those players, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, what's different from now and the last time we were in the Premier League is we've got strength in depth on the bench. And the bench, when it comes on, I always used to complain that other teams would bring on really good players. And I thought there should be some kind of rule that said the players that come on have to be worth less than the players you're substituting. That would make it fair for us in the past. But now
we need to do a podcast on like rules we'd like to see in football.
Yeah, that would have been one of them, but not now.
Were you by any chance thinking of Leeds away last season, like in the Championship, when they could bring on like Dan James and whoever else, and then we brought on Ian Pereira?
Back when we were in the Premier League and we were circling the drain every year for about 4 or 5 years before they finally pressed flush on us. It was back then I was just thinking we didn't have the bench, and even when we were under Reed and we finished 7th twice, we still didn't have the bench to bring on that would be the same quality as today. So that quality that we bring on is absolutely wonderful. So we've got the players. It's not just the manager. We've got the players to be able to do things like that. And I do like Lebris. Last year he copped a bit of stick because he made the fewest substitutions of any manager in the Championship. And he's making them earlier this season. So that's 2 games in a row, and maybe even 3, that he's brought on substitutes on the hour mark. And he was waiting until much later in the game last season. And his substitutes are always trying to go for the game. As soon as we got in front, he brought on defenders. So, I mean, I like what he's able to do. He's prepared to go for it. And yes, in my opinion, I think he is the finest manager for making in-game tactical changes that I can remember. I mean, Lee Johnson used to make them, but it was just bringing on a defender and not knowing what to do. He would always bring on a defender if we were leading, but it was just haphazard and without a plan. So yes, Le Fee definitely. I can't think of anybody else. Even Reed didn't have alternatives, So yeah, great.
Michael, are you in for this Le Fee loving that we're having?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're being genuine, because I didn't get into football until, 15 or so years ago, really. And so my favourite manager has pretty much been Sam Allardyce. I think Le Fee is making a strong case now to be overtaking him at this point because obviously it's a long way to go, but it's a mark of how you've got us competing last season with 3 parachute payment clubs in Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United, competing for the top 2 until the latter stages of the season. Then you beat one of them in a playoff final, overcoming Coventry over 2 legs. Then you have a new team gel together while making tactical changes in games and have us on 22 points after a third of the way season as a promoted club in the Premier League. It's very difficult to argue against that, really. His reactiveness when substitutions in the past was something that did annoy me, but I've got to be fair to him. In the last couple of games in particular, even though we didn't end up getting anything at Fulham, can't say he didn't make the changes because he did. He made them about, around the hour mark, I think. So that was pretty impressive. And even yesterday, Hume, Mundell, and Brobbey coming on, and they're making the difference. They're making the impact. Like I thought, all 3 of them looked very good when they came on, and obviously Brobbey in particular got the winning goal. So you're looking at, like you compared earlier, like Scott Parker or even Daniel Farke at Leeds. I mean, I know Leeds apparently made tactical changes at half time, which is what enabled them to get back in the game at Man City. But that's an anomaly with Farke. He doesn't tend to make changes as in systematic changes, maybe personnel, but not systematic ones necessarily. So all the credit and fair play to, and we've got to mention in particular, fair play to the likes of KLD and the likes of Speakman, because when they brought Le Fee in, there was a lot of, not backlash, but unrest amongst what their plan was and how sustainable it was. We forget that. So yeah, fair play to them. And it just goes to prove, as much as we were getting infuriated at the time, we weren't getting a head coach. Like, it just proves that waiting was ultimately the right decision in the end, because look at where we are now.
Very nearly had Will still.
Yeah, yeah, that's a sliding.
Had a couple of decent jobs in France and thought he was big enough to turn down Sunderland. That's all I'll say.
Well, we've got a question here from Lee Reid on YouTube. He says, can we finally have some appreciation for Bertrand Traore? Had a poor first 2 games and think people, even yesterday, were saying he was poor at times. He's got progressively better every game. To be honest, I was one of those people, particularly in the first half, that thought he was letting the side down a little bit just defensively, but fair play to him. He kept battling and scored that goal, and I think he did improve as time went on throughout the game. And he copped a little bit of flack, didn't he, early on in his Sunderland career, but he's really starting to find his feet. And I think it's a big vote of confidence when Régis Le Fee trusts you, because he clearly does with Traore. So he must be doing something right. His attitude must be spot on, because I think once you lose Le Fee's trust, he's sort of shown it, hasn't he, really, with the likes of Adil Sheesh over the years, Bar, all of those, Pembele. Once you sort of out, you're out. But Traore is, in at the moment, isn't he? I mean, Adingra would be another good example of that. He really, really trusts Traore over Adingra at the moment.
Yeah, he does. And I think what I thought was interesting about Traore was I thought yesterday in the first half, I don't think he was poor actually necessarily, but I felt I think it's just his final third decision making for me was the Bournemouth left back had the better of him all half, I thought, or for most of it. Whereas I felt in the second half, personally, before obviously he scored the goal, but before he came, I thought second half he was really, really good, really, really good. And got to remember as well, and I made the point, I think it was last week, I might have made the point about how if you wanted to sign all these world-class wingers, for example, unfortunately they cost a lot of money. So for what was it, 2.5 million we paid for Traore. So and when you look at
a bargain now,
well, in Premier League terms, it's like 1 penny. So, it was just scary to think about. But yeah, I mean, I thought first half, I thought he could have been a bit better. I wouldn't say he was poor. I think that was as if those at the game saying he was poor. I thought that was a bit harsh. But I did think that he was. I thought second half he was outstanding before he came off. Personally, I don't know what Taff thinks though.
Yeah, I thought it was his best game in a Sunderland shirt. I thought he was excellent. I think there are reasons for that. I also think that. I'm not sure you're giving him enough credit for yesterday. I think the reason Le Fee has had him in the team is because he does as he's told, in a way that Adingra is not reliable. So he will keep shape. He will keep defensive formation. I accept that physically he gets knocked off the ball too easily for the Premier League, and that's a bit disappointing, particularly when he has it in possession. But I thought he was really good yesterday. He had the third most progressive carries of any player on the pitch. Semenyo was top. Xhaka was second, but Traore was third. And if you think about the position that Traore is making those progressive carries in, it's in a more threatening position than Xhaka. So I thought he did really, really well. Out of everybody, of all teams on the pitch, he was the third most progressive carries, and he put lots of dangerous crosses in. There's a lot, quite a few of them went to, past the back post or past the back man, but he was very dangerous yesterday. So I thought he was really good. But key to Traore's success yesterday, I think, is Enzo Le Fee. Without him making that link between Xhaka and the defence in the midfield, he doesn't see the possession. He doesn't get it in space. And I think you notice that. And the reason he comes in for stick and the reason he's been poor, and I also think he's not quite been good enough in previous games, is because you've had Hume in a back five folding into that midfield. And when Hume is there, he's not as creative as Le Fee. He's not able to make that link. So Traore has been more isolated in advanced progressive play when Hume has been behind him, which has been the last 4 games prior to this. So I think great game for Traore, best game yet, but a lot of the reason for that is also about the midfield partner he's playing with yesterday.
Well, Kev agrees. He says on YouTube that we still need a bit more depth in his opinion, especially midfield and the right wing. That said, I thought Traore is good and seems to be improving. Michael, I just want to touch upon Enzo Le Fee in the middle because I thought he was absolutely outstanding. He was very, very good on the ball, off the ball. He continues to work extremely hard. We know he's not the biggest or the physically strongest, but he certainly gets around the pitch. And he puts his body on the line. He puts tackles in. He does the dirty side of the game really, really well. It's pleasing, isn't it, to see that Enzo Le Fee has arrived as a Premier League midfielder because he's played a lot on the left wing, hasn't he? We know how good he can be. But I feel like there's been a touch of a question mark over whether he can play in a midfield in the Premier League successfully. And I think he's answered that question now. And really, as well, the question's twofold. With Mundell now being back at an option on the left wing, I think that gives Sunderland a great deal of options, especially heading into AFCON.
I was just about to mention it couldn't be better timed if we can keep Mundell fit as well, particularly with AFCON. I was someone who felt when we signed Le Fee that I thought he was quite underwhelming in the regular season before the playoffs. I thought in the playoffs he was instrumental. He made a difference. He had a hand in every single goal Sunderland scored in the playoffs, bar the winner, which obviously was a mistake from Kiefer Moore. And in case you're interested, it's 1-1 Crystal Palace Man United, so we're back fourth, get in. But yes, I know. There's those 2 parts of me that are thinking, right, 40 points or get in with fourth. But yeah, of course you want to stay as high as possible. But on the Fela, I thought that he was underwhelming in the regular championship season, not including the playoff games. But I think a part of that was down to because by the end of the season, teams were setting up against us, unless you're like a parachute payment side, the high end of the league or whatever, or you had to win necessarily to really like stay up or something. Most teams would have been sitting in a mid to low block against us. And I think Le Fee would have probably found that harder to sort of maneuver because obviously everything's in front of you. You're having to break down often 2 flanks of 4 or a flank of 4 and a flank of 5 or whatever it is. But when it mattered, Le Fee did deliver. And thank goodness we won the playoff final because he would not be with us if we hadn't had gone up. And so far this season, he's been probably an unsung shout for one of the players of the season for me. He's been tremendous I think obviously, in a lot of games, I think he's been one of our better performers. And I think it just goes to show how, 20 million quid again we paid for him. So you've got to say, Labrice, the connection he's got with him, we talk about trust, we trust him. It's like you said, if you're out, you're out. Well, if you're in, you're clearly in then because, Le Fee obviously has that trust from, from Labrice, and Le Fee was great yesterday. And obviously, as Taff rightly mentioned, I think a lot of the things, the link up and everything we did going forward, a lot of it came through him in the midfield. And not to mention his work rate's been outstanding this season as well, which, is not something you often associate with players in his position. As much as we all think work rate should be a given, with certain positions, sadly, it isn't a given, in my opinion. So to see how good Le Fee's come on leaps and bounds is incredible. And remember, he was one of the few players that plays regularly that was here last season as well. Like how a lot of them was just a new team sort of not thrown together because that does disservice to the recruitment work. But like a lot of it was assembled very good, a very quick space of time. So yeah, I think for Le Fee, couldn't be happier for him. And I think it just goes to show how important, again to mention it, how important getting promoted at the end of last season was.
And Taff, a lot of people talk about Granit Xhaka rightly as a game-changing signing for Sunderland, but Enzo Le Fee was almost the game-changing signing before the game-changing signing, wasn't he? It was such a statement of intent to get him in the Championship, and he perhaps has gone under the radar a little bit this season in terms of the level of story we've seen from Sunderland.
Was he once our record signing before we signed Diarra?
Yeah,
well?
that's my point. We already had him, so he signed. Everyone was excited about that, but there was the Jobe Bellingham transfer story. There was Habib Diarra coming in. Then obviously Sunderland have started the season really well, but it's just a joy to have him at the football club, isn't it? Because he's such a talented player.
He is. I think there are other reasons why he's gone under the radar. The defence has been so impressive that people look at those defenders and they look at the quality of Mukiele and Alderete and Reinildo, and those are surprises because we didn't really know those players. In a sense, we kind of already knew Le Fee, and that's what you're saying, because we had him last season, because we knew him. He doesn't get the sort of plaudits. But he's clearly one of our, I think he's probably absolutely our most creative midfielder. The trouble has been trying to fit him into a team. And because he's creative, because he's willing to play those disguised passes or those quick passes, sometimes he gets caught out. And there have been times, and it was yesterday as well, where he plays a ball and it's to the opposition 25 yards out, and it causes a problem, it causes a threat. It resulted in a goal 2 weeks ago. And, there were some difficulties sometimes there. And I think people remember that. And that's kind of goes in the negative column when they say who's our best one. And it shouldn't do, because you have to accept that that's going to happen if he's going to be successful with all of the passing, all the creativity that he does do. If you want him to be safer, then you lose what's really, really good about him. So I think that's just part and parcel of having a midfielder who's able and willing to twist and turn and play those passes, that sometimes that will happen. You'd love it to be nil, but that's just not a realistic scenario. So I think he's our most creative midfielder. I was worried, not worried, but I was surprised that they chose to play him on the right, because we hadn't seen him in the right of a central midfield. And you did worry. You mentioned it, James. You touched upon the idea of his physicality. Can he cope in the middle of that midfield? But he was magnificent. So it was really, really pleasing to see. I think it helped release Traore in terms of creativity as well. Surely he holds that place for next week, surely.
Well, that's interesting, actually. It brings me on to my next point, which is quite prevalent in the comments section. Lebris obviously changed. He went to a 4-3-3, didn't he, against Bournemouth? Now it's interesting because he's used the 5-4-1 to great effect against teams who are going to have a little bit more of the ball. Obviously, with Liverpool and Man City coming up, do you revert and change back to a 5-4-1? We looked very good at times yesterday in that 4-3-3, obviously battling back, but perhaps a little bit open defensively, particularly in the first half. So I'm really interested to see what he's going to do with those two games coming up.
I don't think we were that open defensively. It was end-to-end sort of pulsating stuff. But if you think about the game as a whole...
I thought just in the opening 10-20, I thought we were a little bit lax.
Yeah, but we had lots of chances too, and I think you have to have a bit of faith in that defence. The two goals that they score come from breakaways. One's from a mucked-up corner, and the other is, a worldie from the halfway line. So I do think that, I think that if you take away the fact that they've got two breakaway goals, how many other genuine chances did they create against our back four? And I know that once we get the third goal, we go to a back five. And so it's, we concede territory. They have a lot more ball, but they also have a lot more chances there. But they didn't have that many, if you think about it.
I think apart from when they hit the bar, they didn't, did they?
No, Tavernier hits the bar. But, if that goes in, that's a worldie. You can't do anything about that, no matter how well organised you are at the back. I mean,
that little moment of offside as well, didn't they? When they were,
but he's offside, and if he's
no, absolutely,
I was going to go, yeah, but that doesn't count.
I think what it does is it really speaks to the quality of the Premier League in a sense that Sunderland didn't play badly at all in that opening 20, but they found themselves sort of 2-0 down pretty quickly, and it was weird because I don't think the whole stadium didn't really feel like that it was a 2-0 game at that point. It was strange.
But you're just not going to go down to a worldie from the halfway line and a breakaway from a corner. You're just not going to go down to like that every week. So I think you put it into a bit of perspective. They didn't create that much. Semenyo was kept pretty quiet. I say one of the best attacking forces in the league, had very little chance and provided little. I think so. I'm not. I don't think. Maybe I'm still on a high. I'm not prepared to accept that we struggled defensively as a 4 yesterday. I don't know if that means I would go to Liverpool with a 4 though.
I was
Michael,
about to say,
what do you
I
reckon?
think playing Liverpool at Anfield's very different to playing Bournemouth at the Stadium of Light, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look at the match stats here about don't know how big your unexpected goals. They had 1.86. We had 1.28. I know there'll be some people probably tearing.
Penalty, though.
Sorry?
One of them's a penalty, so you take that away.
Within one of ours was a penalty.
Yeah. One of our.
Yeah, so because I mean, shots on target's the same. Obviously, shots off target, but a lot of them can be shots way over the bar from like long distance. So obviously, it's not. Although it's statistically a chance, it's not really a clear-cut one. So it just. But again, we do have to remember that, and I think James is right in some sense that although I didn't think Sunderland played badly in the opening 20 minutes, personally, I felt like the problem is that when you watch them when they were passing the ball around and when they had the little moments of quality, you just sort of. I was just thinking in my head, oh no, this is like. When you're playing against an established Premier League side, that's what being established can do for you. But to be fair to Taff, he has got a point in that you're not going to go down to unless you're an extremely unlucky team, you're not going to go down to worldies every week like like Tyler Adams' goal. And you just got to say fair play. It was just a great finish, and obviously it came from a breakaway. So I think with Liverpool away though, it's a bit of a different kettle of fish because if we're going to try and go, I suspect Liverpool probably want us to go there and probably play 4 at the back and go at them a bit more because. I don't know how much of Liverpool's detriment this season has maybe been the fact that teams will try and set up a bit more conservatively against them because they are the champions. Obviously, they're not playing like it at the minute, but they are statistically the champions. Like I think Anfield for me is a very different. Anfield's still Anfield for me. It's still a incredibly difficult game. So I think I'm with Tyler. Personally, I would go 5 at the back, but if the Breezes are going at 4 at the back, then he's going to be one brave individual. And just let you know, Man United have gone 2-1 up. So,
oh dear.
Yeah.
the other
underestimating Bournemouth. Go on.
No, go for it, Taff. After you.
I think people are underestimating Bournemouth. You were saying that they were good as an attacking force. We were a bit weak. I think that doesn't give Bournemouth enough credit. They're one of the best attacking forces in the league. I think they're 5th in the division for shots on target. It's only Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. They're the only teams above them. They're 4th for the number of corners they get, which shows you how aggressive they are. And I think they're one of the best goal-scoring teams in the Premier League as well. So I think that they are a real attacking force. Their weakness is their defence, obviously, as we found out yesterday. But they're an attacking force. So of course we're going to have they're going to have chances against us. So I don't think it's that we played entirely badly. They've got 2 goals, that are breakaway. They are a really good side who are going to get chances. They're a really good side in the division for attacking force, and I don't think we give them enough credit. And consequently, that's a really, really effective win for us.
Absolutely. I know you said we kept him quiet, and we did to a degree, but Antoine Semenyo, he's a really, really good footballer. Just some of his touches, his runs, his movement, he was... I quite enjoyed actually watching his performance from an opposition standpoint. Pleased that we kept him relatively quiet, but it's like... It's crazy to think that he played for us. I know he was only on loan, it was during COVID, but it just goes to show the development speeds and getting the right move because he looks a real player now.
But he's a really, really good player, though. But like Taff is right. I think that, I think mainly what we're saying about, where we cut open too easy sometimes is probably more that we know Sunderland are capable, or Sunderland are also a good team and are capable of doing, the best standard that we can see of them. But Bournemouth are a good team. And it wouldn't shock me at the end of the season if they're in a real hunt for a European place, Bournemouth. And I'm talking like a realistic shout for finishing in, say, the top 6, top 7. Ariola's a really good manager. He had to replace, I think it was his entire back line in the summer, if I'm right. I could be wrong on that one, but I think he had to have a lot to do in terms of a couple of key sales and was able to replace them. So I think, Bournemouth are not a bad team, and I agree with Taff. That is a really, really good victory for us. And I think even with the fact that, and this is my sort of looking at getting to 40 points, and I still stand by that, but my thinking was yesterday, if we'd say even drew 2-2 from 2-0 down, even before the game, if Leeds and Burnley, for example, lost and we drew, that was a successful weekend as far as I was concerned because it was a point clearer of them two. And obviously there's a long way to go. There's 2/3 of the season left. But, I was looking at it and going, just edge clearer of the bottom 3. But, I know Taff's saying he looks at...
You're still looking too low, Michael. You're looking too low still.
Yeah, no, I know I am. But, hey, if we get the 40 points in like mid-January, then maybe I'll look differently. That's the thing. It's the Premier League. It's a very tough division, but we're a very good team ourselves. And put it this way, the way I look, okay, I'll tell you what then, if I look at low, Leeds didn't beat Bournemouth at home then, if you want to look at it that way. And can I see Burnley beating Bournemouth at home unless they went down to 9 or 10 men? No, probably not. So, that's always the big way to look at it. Just keep getting well clear of the bottom three. And then Taff, I promise you, if we get the 40 points with plenty of games left to go, then I might look at Europe or something. I don't know. 40 points is still the target immediately in my mind.
And Taff, it's such a good win that as well, because it does to a degree take the pressure off the Liverpool and Man City games a little bit. We all know the game after that double header. There'll be pressure on the Newcastle game, absolutely, but just getting that win there sort of eases it a little bit coming into this run, doesn't it?
It does, but I'll be absolutely frank with you. My biggest worry about these two coming games is to ensure that Siddiqui and Xhaka get a yellow card at Anfield. That's my biggest concern. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to be more fretful about that than anything else going into Man City. I don't know what you do going to Anfield. I don't think you can play four at the back. I don't know, but they struggle at their own back. They are prone to being broken down, but they are such a good high pressing attacking force. We're gonna be under the cosh there quite a lot, and I think that Forest result is a bit of a freak result. If you look at the game and look at the way it started, Liverpool were all over them, and I'm not sure that we should believe as much as we all currently do about going there. You look at Bournemouth, they lost 3 key defenders last season and didn't really replace them. Zubayani went to PSG, Huyson to Madrid, Kirkesh to Liverpool. You can't replace that and be as effective. And I think we should all call their manager Angry Iraola from now on. He was stotting on the sideline, wasn't he? So, look, I don't know what we're going to do against Liverpool. If we get anything out of it, it'll be fine. I'm expecting at least 2 yellow cards, but that's what I need.
Let's have a look through some of these.
Siddiqui getting booked to miss Man City.
Yes.
Let's have a look through some of these YouTube comments. Andy says, "Nice to have met you, James. What a mad game of football. Lovely to have met you too, Andy. Thanks for saying hello." I want to look at this question from Coffee Goblin. It says, "Liverpool are struggling against physical teams. Get Broby started and have all of the big lads in a back five and bully them." I want to talk specifically about Broby because he's coming on and making a fantastic impact at the moment. Wilson Isidore continues to sort of impress me. I know he hasn't scored recently, but he gets through a lot of work. He's really pushing for a start now, Brian Broby, isn't he? And it's another big selection call that Lebris is going to have to think about in these 2 games. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts either the Man City or the Liverpool game, to be honest. And to be honest, I feel like it's harsh on Isidore, but goals win games, don't they?
Go for it, Taff, you want.
Yeah, he's got to start. He's earned the right to start, and I know it's been a bit different, and you can have it either way, but I prefer the idea of Broby coming on and beating people up for an hour, and then Isidore coming on fresh as a daisy with loads of pace in behind. I prefer that sort of attack, and that's what worked very early in the season, but with Mayenda and then Isidore coming on. And Isidore scored his goals coming on fresh against a tired defence. Isidore was always going to start yesterday. Such a confidence player, so good at home, loves the crowd. He was always going to have that chance. But Broby deserves his chance now. What more can the lad do to start? I don't think that you can expect him to sprint and chase balls for 90 minutes because he's such a physical player that carrying that weight around. You can't ask him to sprint like that the whole time. But he is actually really good at getting the ball in the midfield, turning, holding it up, passing it on. You look at the last couple of games and he gets breaks from that midfield and surges forward in a way that Wilson doesn't. So he is a different kind of player, and I think he would suit playing against Liverpool. I can't remember where the quote was, but whoever said play Broby, I would agree. He's earned his chance. He holds the ball up well. He drops in the midfield and turns more with the ball. And if we're going to play foul at the back, we might well need that. So it's a Broby start for me. And if we're still in the game, then maybe we bring, or even if we're not, because we'll have a go for it. That if we're close and not far behind, Lebris will have a go for it. Bring on Wilson for a tired back line. Certainly, let's get at them physically with Big Brian.
Michael, what are you doing? Are you doing Isidore or is it Broby?
Yeah, it's probably Broby. I think going to Anfield, I think it's one where you're going to have a focal point as well. I'm not saying Isidore can't be that, because there are times I think his forward play can be quite good, but I think sometimes I think Isidore's physicality or lack thereof sometimes can be a bit of a, I don't want to say a bit of a worry, because I don't want to be too harsh on the lad, because Isidore has done well and I love the guy, but I think this game in itself, I like Taff's analogy of Broby beating people up for an hour basically, and then Isidore comes on and then against bloodied and bruised players, and then can feel the effect of it. And actually, if you look at it, to be fair, it could be that this might be the most effective outcome, because even if, say, we were losing the game against Liverpool and we were still in it, Isidore coming on could be one that maybe makes them sit back a bit further. And if you look at how vulnerable Liverpool have been at the back recently, then it's an opportunity there. But I also do agree with what Taff said about that. I think if you look at Liverpool Forest, like early parts of that game, Liverpool were battering Forest and we're all over them really. So I think it's obviously, look, maybe I'm looking at it just because it's Liverpool, but Liverpool are still, Anfield is still Anfield. So I would personally go Broby, and I probably would go to a back five as well. I think, the comment earlier about they hate playing against physicality, that's exactly what we need to be to have a chance of getting anything. But the crucial thing is, in the next two games, if we don't get anything, we've won yesterday, and it gives us that little bit of a breathing space, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Taff, interesting question from Las Palmas Macam on YouTube. He floats the idea of actually playing them both in a 4-4-1-1, playing Isidore as a number 10, helping the midfield, and Broby up front. Interesting question, because we saw Lebris sort of play 4-4-2 at times last season, didn't we, with Mayenda and Isidore? And I quite liked it, but in the Premier League away at Anfield, I'm not necessarily sure that would be the best idea, but I'm not Lebris.
Yeah, look, I don't know. There might be space in midfield. Could you play? People call it differently, 4-4-2-3-1, or 4-5-1. Could you play that possibly, if you're a bit cautious at the back? Because Salah and Isaac, if they both play, which they probably will, they are not the most noted for tracking back and defender, both of those. So if they don't, and Salah definitely won't, and Isaac is less effective tracking back, then there might be space in that midfield for us to do something with. So it's worth the thought. And even the 4-4-1-1 gives you an extra man in midfield there. But you have to be super confident of winning that midfield. I mean, they play with their sort of high wing backs, Szoboszlai, Gravenbach, McAllister. That is a tough midfield to try to bully. I know.
I love Szoboszlai. Yeah, I really like Szoboszlai. He's such a good player.
But I mean, you're looking to try to bully them in midfield, because if you don't, and Isaac and Salah are not tracking back, then you're exposed greatly, aren't you? Now we all know that Lebris is caution first, so I don't think that he does that. But it would be interesting if we go behind and we're still in the game on the hour mark. If we're only losing by one goal at 65, 70 minutes. Then maybe he does do something like that, because he's always prepared to say, all right, we're not going to get hammered in the last 20 minutes, but we might be able to try and get a point here. And he'll be caution first. And if we're still in it, maybe we see something like that. But and I can see why. I doubt it to start.
That's why you said you don't think we're going to get battered very much this season, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you both do. If you have an even goal difference, you pretty much finish about 13th in the league. So... yeah.
I mean, I could see us losing a game 2 or 3-0 just because of what we saw against Bournemouth, in a sense that the Premier League is such a high quality division that you can be punished quite easily without really doing too much wrong. I think that's, but I don't see us sort of going down in a blaze of glory or anything like that in terms of getting absolutely walloped.
Not a Southampton 8-0 again.
Yeah, nothing like too tactically. I think he's probably learned from that Manchester United away performance, hasn't he? Which brings me to my next point, question from YouTube. Obviously, Liverpool are in terrible form. Man United were in bad form when we were playing them. Did we get a bit complacent around that game? And the point has been made, let's not underestimate their form, because they do have a team full of superstars.
And
absolutely. But I think, honestly, it's wonderful reflection on where we are and what Sunderland have done. The fact that we can forget that, and the fact that we can go to Man United and go to Anfield and think we might get something, even if it's just a point. Because I don't ever remember going to these places ever expecting to get anything, or even scoring more than one goal. But I always think we're going to score these days, and I always think we've got a chance of getting something. And that is a reflection on how good we're playing at the minute. But you're right. I don't, we've got to be careful. I think he will. I think you're right. He's learnt from Man United. I think he'll put out 5 at the back. I think he'll be cautious. But all of the options that we talk about how we might play with a 4 and stuff, that's all open for if we're still in the game after the first hour.
I think another thing to mention that you mentioned about how, although you don't want to underestimate any team, I think we kind of did that at Fulham to some extent as well. Where I think because Fulham aren't a bad team either, and I agree with that. I think Taff said that Bournemouth are a much better team than Fulham, and I agree with that actually. But they're not. They're far from a team that I think will go down Fulham. The point I'm making is that if you underestimate anyone not on it, you get punished. And I think and sometimes, like James said, even if you don't do that much wrong, sometimes in the game, you can sometimes just be punished by just good quality, which is why it's all the more impressive for me that we're on 22 points after 13 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Just circling back around to the game, interested to know your thoughts on this Taff question from YouTube. But was Robin Roofs a little bit at fault? This particular commenter has said that his recent fear of seeing Roofs so far up the pitch when we're taking corners, he was practically in the halfway circle. Is that a concern for you going forward? It seems to be a facet of the modern game now, doesn't it? Really, that the goalkeepers.
Yeah. No, it is not a concern for me. I get that you're exposed and you think, well, what on earth is the keeper doing up there? There is a reason for it, because you need the keeper up there so that if you're playing a corner or a long throw or something like that and it goes into the box, you're looking for the second balls. It might bobble out and you've got players on the 16-yard line to cover it. It might be that if they are pressed, they need to turn around and pass it to somebody. And you don't want them to pass 60 yards back to the goalkeeper in his goal line. So the goalkeeper has to be on that sort of halfway line to be passed back to by whoever's on the 16-yard line taking the balls coming out, so that he can then play it long again, play it wide again. He can recycle the ball quicker and keep the pressure up. So that's why he's there, to be able to be available for that. It's a way of trying to keep the shape to control the game and get the ball back in again. I mean, we've seen it quite a few times, a couple of times at Fulham. I think we saw it elsewhere, and we saw it yesterday where they break away and the goalkeeper is desperately isolated. It doesn't usually happen as often as that, and we're the authors of our own demise there. But that's why he's in that position. He's got to be available for the press or the movement out from a second ball. He needs to be there. Otherwise, our attacks would break down much more easily, and there'd be no one to pass to there. It'd be much worse, I think.
Yeah, and it's a wonder goal, isn't it, Michael? Really, you don't see that too often.
No, of course you don't. That's just one of those goals, and everyone knows I tear apart goals, Sunderland concede all the time. I wasn't very happy for the first one, but obviously there was a slip by Mukiele in the build-up to it, to be fair. But the second one, you just kind of went, that's annoying, he picked this game to do it, but you just got to hold your hands up and just say it's really, really well good. And, like you both said, you don't face that every week, but when it does happen, you've just got to give credit for it.
Much more importantly, it's available for that ball to be recycled when it comes out. I think.
It's just the way things are done in the modern game now, isn't it? They all play higher up the pitch as a sort of sweeper keeper, and I think Taff as well. He can have a pass on that one because he's had such an excellent season so far. He's adapted to life in the Premier League superbly, really, for a player who's so young in goalkeeping terms, but in just general life as well. I think he's been magnificent.
It's not his fault. He is instructed to be there specifically so the ball can be recycled. It's not his fault that Taube plays a short pass and everybody races off, so that he's just got to suck it up. It makes it look bad on his part, but he's instructed to be there for very good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at some of the questions. Here's one
While
from
you're
Ben.
looking, just very quickly, it's important to remember if one of our players scored a goal like that, we'd be crediting them as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it was the other way around.
It's a great goal.
Yeah, it's an excellent strike. Ben Burton on Facebook says, is there a chance we choose to have more pace on the right wing against a slowing, aging Andrew Robertson than to have Traore? I don't think you can drop Traore, personally.
I don't think so either.
Is Kirkish not going to play?
There's a shout. I suppose it depends what Slot decides to do, because he sort of, Robertson's been in and out this season, hasn't he? But when he's played, they have looked slightly more solid. I know that's not saying a great deal, and they're on a terrible run of form. What is it? 9 losses in 12 or 13 or something like that. So it's anybody's guess, really.
Well, I suppose they play in 25 minutes, don't they? They play West Ham away, so depends if Slot's going to do that by the time you play them.
Let's have a look at that lineup, actually.
I don't think Riggs starts, so who else do you put on the right wing? I tell you what was good about the other day is when Mundo came back, did not look out of place and looked quite effective, and that gives us more options. I think that makes it much more certain that Le Fee plays in the midfield because Mundle and Talby are available. In fact, I thought Mundle in his short period of time was much more secure with the ball than Talby, to be honest. Talby, I thought he was safer with the ball. So I was really pleased with Mundle's sort of short introduction yesterday.
Yeah, Robertson, I don't think is even on the bench. Is he on the bench? No, yes, he is on the bench, but he's not starting today against West Ham.
So that's not starting either.
Yeah, Salah's been dropped. Wow, that is that's some team though.
That's a sign of a manager under pressure.
Yeah, he's dropped Mo Salah.
Just very quickly, I want to touch on what Taff said about Mundle. I actually was of the opinion to talk about Talby. I thought actually Talby was really good personally yesterday.
He was good. I just thought Mundle was more safe with the ball.
But what I was going to say was I was also equally impressed with Mundle when he came on as well. And when you mentioned earlier about strength and depth, that's the sort of thing we like to see. Talby comes off, no problem. Mundle can come on. Now, bear in mind, I'm basing Mundle off 30 minutes yesterday. That's his first 30 minutes of Premier League football. So we need to see how much longevity there is in how he can perform. But if yesterday is anything to go by, and again, Bournemouth on a bad side, then I think, he looked after the ball quite well. His direct pace was really handy. And I think when you actually look at with AFCON coming up, I think if we can keep him fit, then obviously that's a big question mark. If you can keep Mundle fit, then his reappearance could certainly come at the best time for us.
I think it's big Mundle being back, to be honest, Taff, because it's easy to forget last season just how good he was, and it's unfortunate that he picked up those couple of injuries. But there was a point in time where we'd lost Jack Clark, obviously being sold, but Mundle slotted right in and started to perform exceptionally. I think he's got a really high ceiling, and I believe he can be a regular in the Premier League. I think he's that good, and I think perhaps we've forgotten about him a little bit because he's spent so long out. But in the early parts of last season, he was electric.
Yeah, he's great. I'm trying to think. I was trying to just access some statistics. I couldn't find them quick enough. I don't think he lost the ball in a pass when he came on yesterday in that half hour, and I think that sort of thing is really important, particularly as a winger. And he's still threatened and was creative. So he doesn't have Talby's pace, but I thought it was a really, really solid half hour. His first half hour in the Premier League. He didn't look out of place. He kept the ball safe and was still a threat going forward when the odd free kick. So I thought it was really, really solid for him. And I know it's only half an hour and you have to be careful, you're right, against a team that was starting to fall apart in terms of discipline. And it's a very different prospect going to, Manchester City and Liverpool. So I don't know, but it was a really, really encouraging half hour from him yesterday. He's still young as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Question from YouTube: have we now got an abundance of wingers? It's interesting. I suppose it's twofold, isn't it? Because we do have a lot of wingers. But if you were to ask, which some people have on YouTube, which areas would you strengthen in January or try to? It would be on the wings, wasn't it? Particularly on the right, as Taff says.
Yeah. I think if you're looking at, what wingers have we got now? Is it Adingra, Talby, Mundle, Traore?
And Enzo can play there. Enzo can play there.
Yeah, I'm more counting him as a midfielder who can. I'm talking like specialist wingers, but you are right. Enzo can play there, but
Mayenda could play on the right if
Mayenda can play there too.
Yeah, that's true. It's an options during AFCON we might end up seeing. So it's we're certainly not spoiled down there. I think maybe I still would like us to maybe go for a right winger in January. But for right now, for the moment, there's probably worse options to have, especially as a promoted side.
Nobody here is talking about Adingra. Is he just?
He's fallen right out of favour, hasn't he? Yeah, that game against Manchester United away seems to have sort of. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about trust in Lebris and when you fall sort of foul of or out of favour, it can take a little while to get back in. And I just wonder, defensively against United, he wasn't really up to it, was he, Taff? And those sorts of performances, I think, linger in the minds of managers, and particularly Regis Lebris, actually.
Yeah, I do wonder about him, and you have to think he's involved so little. And now that Mundle's back, and Talby got a start, and Traore had his best game in the Sunderland shirt, you have to start to think, well, when will he play? He's also aware AFCON. There's a good chance he plays very little between now and February, and even then, when he comes back, how could he force his way into the team having not played for us until then? And so you start to think, well, who are we going to buy in January? If we all say we need a right winger, or even if that doesn't happen in January, who do we buy in the summer? We all think we need a right winger. You have to wonder where does a Dingra fit into the long-term plan? It currently can't get in the team. It's away for AFCON. He won't get into the team immediately after that. You have to wonder.
Cost a lot of money as well. Let's not forget Adingra. And we were all very hyped about that transfer in the summer, and it hasn't quite happened for him. And he was a long-term target as well. They try to get him in the January in the Championship as part of the Tommy Watson deal.
I think you pretty much make your money back on him, so I'm not that worried about him.
Yeah.
You do wonder what his future is.
No, absolutely. Michael, any thoughts on Adingra?
Yeah, I think it's a weird one because I like Adingra a lot, but I've watched of him. I am a pretty big fan of his, but again, I trust Lebris. You know, Lebris has seen something. Lebris has seen him every day, whereas I'm not. I'm just seeing him on a. Well, I was going to say I was seeing him on 90 minutes on a Saturday, but I'm not seeing him at all at the moment, am I? So I think the point Taff makes, I think you probably, if you were to sell him in the future, he's on a 5-year contract, isn't he? So you'll make your money back from him if need be. I mean, I could see someone like, let's say hypothetically next summer I don't think he gets sold next summer, but say in the hypothetical scenario, they'd say I could see one of the three in the three who go down this season maybe going for him. Like you could see someone like, depending if Adingra wants to drop to the Championship or go somewhere abroad, but if someone like Leeds or let's say Leeds, probably the best example. Say if someone like a Leeds went for Adingra, you'd be in a position to command, say 20-odd million. Although I do appreciate for the Championship that is a astronomically high fee, isn't it? So like for a team in the Championship to spend that. But the point is, yes, I think you would make your money back on Adingra if we were to sell him. But it's a shame, really, because I'm a pretty big fan of his. But for whatever reason, for what Lebris sees behind the scenes, he just doesn't seem to trust him anywhere near as much as the others.
What I will say, Taff, as well.
Yeah.
What I will say, Taff, as well, is that you know your career can turn on a dime as well. It can all change very quickly for you. One moment can spark it, and suddenly you're in the team, or an injury, something like that. But as well, it's probably worth noting that it is quite difficult to have an impact when you're not starting regularly and playing that sort of regular football. It's tough, isn't it, to find a rhythm? And obviously, he didn't come on at all yesterday. So, but look at it's probably a little bit too early to judge him fully, isn't it?
Absolutely. I don't think his days are done yet, but you do have to wonder how he's going to get a chance. But you're right. Look at how hard and what end product Talby has had to demonstrate coming on as a substitute. And also Broby. And Talby's started yesterday and Broby still hasn't started. And those guys are giving everything coming off the bench. And if you've only got those 20 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour here and there, it's really difficult to break into the side. And he hasn't had that. Maybe he will. He's got great skill. I don't think his days are done. It's hard to see when he even gets those chances, when you see how hard it is for people getting those chances to break into a starting slot.
And by the way, just add to what he said there, to what Taff just literally mentioned. Imagine if someone said that to you in the summer. You'll sign Adingra, but you'll barely get into your team.
Yeah, it's just strange. It's football throws these things at you. It's nothing ever goes as planned. Yeah, absolutely. Phil Peacock on YouTube asks, who do you think the number one target is for January? To be honest, from what I'm seeing, the reports from Europe and all that, it does appear to be Guendouzi at the moment. I know we spoke a bit about him last week, but I'll expand the question. If you could pick a player, a realistic signing, who would you pick? Taff and then Michael.
From the people we've been linked with, I don't think this will be a popular answer, but from the people we've been linked with, I think Guendouzi is fine, really good, but you lose Le Fee. We've got Habib Diarra coming back as well, so it's hard to see. I mean, a really good player will be losing out if we get Guendouzi. I don't have a problem with those kind of difficult decisions. Fine. There's also been that Santi Jimenez, the Mexican striker up front. Now, he had amazing figures before he went to Italy, so I could see why he might give us something else, but we've got three strikers. Mayenda isn't even starting these days and doesn't get any game time. What happens if we add a fourth to that? I don't know. My choice would be Lasumi. I would get him because I think Alderete as our only left-sided defender is a weakness at the back line. I can't think of a right winger that we would have. I'd like a right winger before that, but of the people we've been linked with, I'd have Lasumi. Because when Alderete was out of the team, I think it really affected us. He was our best ball carrier, but also you didn't get his ability to ping the ball over to the right of midfield because nobody could do it. So I think having another left-footed central defender would be good. I would like a right winger ahead of that. but I don't know who we've been linked with, or I don't know who we'd get.
Michael, you can sign one player. Who are you signing? Realistic, though.
Until you said realistic, I was going to go running down the wing, hear the Sunderland say, go hammer, but that's not happening, is it? Actually, he's just getting substituted off, but he's played nearly all game for Man United. He's not going to leave it in Everton. Come here. Unless he says, well, hang on, Sunderland are above Man United in the Premier League, so, yeah. Oh, realistic.
Mr. Bojingles on YouTube says free him mad.
Curse you, James Copley. You had to say the word realistic, didn't you?
Yeah, you never know. Someone could put a massive bid in for him, and it might test Man United's resolve. I mean, Sir Jim Radcliffe does like making a profit, so.
Well, yeah, that is true. Well, it depends. Maybe it could be a domino effect. Maybe that Man United signed Semenyo, and then maybe we could go for Ahmad. I don't know. Right wing is the one I think we need the most, personally. I wouldn't mind another midfielder. I was going to mention Conor Gallagher, funnily enough. How much chance we have of getting him, though, I don't know.
That's weird, though, because Sunderland haven't actually been linked to him. It's just been known or made available, the information that he's sort of possibly on the move.
Reportedly available.
To the Premier League in the January. But Sunderland actually haven't been linked with him. I mean, he's a great player. I wouldn't be adverse to the idea at all, but I haven't actually seen us properly mentioned with him yet.
I suppose to be fair, though, you could say some of the players we've signed have been ones where you go, we haven't heard about them until they're pretty much done.
Oh,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the Adingra one in the summer was just a complete surprise.
Well, Keith Downey that broke it. It was like, oh, by the way, they've agreed to fee and he's on his way for a medical, So
God, what a good transfer window that was. It was just hit after hit. Take me back to the summer of 2025.
I'm sure you both agree with this, though. Like, for once, if I had to pick a player, I would probably go Gallagher, personally. Out of the players I've seen, I mean, I know we haven't been linked with him, but of the players I've seen, but the names I've seen mentioned, but yeah, no, I would have said Ahmad Diallo until you said the word realistic. But, I think, but what I don't know what you both think about this, but especially if we get a few more points between now and January, I'm quite excited for that window, actually. I'm very excited to see what we could do and to see because I mean, and again, Taff, I know I've asked you this quite a few times, but I think you said our PSR position. I know it's getting replaced with SCR next season, but for the rest of this season, it's PSR. You said our position's still quite good. Is that right?
It's still pretty good. I think as an absolute maximum, we could probably still spend another 80, 100 million. We won't
just casually spend another
all the noises are that we will, sign somebody. But let me ask you both: would you sign Jimenez? Would you sign that another striker?
I think I probably would, if given the chance. What's interesting to me as well is these Gonzalo Garcia links don't seem to go away either. Obviously, he signed a new contract at Real Madrid. But for me, the mood music, listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who we're going to sign or who we're necessarily in for. But we've seen Sunderland linked with strikers long-term for quite a while now. So that would suggest to me that it's a position that they would like to strengthen. And as we've mentioned on this Q&A over the past 3 weeks, it's hard and expensive to strengthen in attacking areas. It's the most
especially
expensive
in January as well.
Yeah, it's especially in January. It's the most important part of the pitch. It's the most expensive part of the pitch to recruit to. But as you touched upon just slightly there, Sunderland are recruiting from a position of real strength. Like this club, from an outsider's perspective, for a new player coming in, there's so many unique selling points that I have a lot of trust in the hierarchy to one, get the right people, and two, get the right players as well, because everything about the club is positive at the moment. It's gone are the days where we had to overpay someone like Jack Rodwell to come, or overpay someone like Julian Lescott to come for 6
Darren
months.
Gibson, remember that?
all of that sort of stuff. There's a plan now, so. I wouldn't be adverse to signing Jimenez, actually, Taff, to get back to you. As you say, his goal record's very good. It clearly hasn't worked for him in Milan so far. We are very good at rehabilitating sort of wonder kids, aren't we? We've done it many times before.
Really quality players who've kind of gone by the wayside a little bit, but still have that ability within. Yeah, so I think
we are good at recognising when a player like that is maybe is a low ebb in his career and needs a fresh start. I mean, Enzo Le Fee was one. His career at Roma wasn't really.
Well, even if you want to go back further down to League One, you could look at Alex Pritchard, you could look at Patrick Roberts, Jack Clark.
Absolutely.
So there's a few different examples. So, and for those three at that level is a real boost, really. If you're answering Taff's question on Jimenez, well, obviously I don't know as much about the guy, but if he's a clear step above what we've got, then absolutely, of course you do. You want to look to try and strengthen whenever you can. And Coffee Goblin, and I love that name, by the way, I absolutely agree with you. I would love to see if we're in a good position in the league come the FA Cup third round, depending on who we get in the draw, I would love to see us try and make a good fist of that competition if we can. But yeah, I would say if you're asking me would I sign Jimenez, yeah, I probably would. If I'm going to take it on word of well. Clearly, you've triggered PTSD there, James, for Kev. So yeah, we'll see. But Man United's 1-2-1 in case anyone's interested. But as we're fourth, I think people probably would be. So, well, go on then, Taff. What do you think about Jimenez?
I think he's exactly the sort of player that Sunderland like. He was posting magnificent numbers before he went to Italy. It's not worked out for him. I think he's precisely the sort of player that Sunderland go for. But there's another suggestion in the chat there from Lee Reed. If you put his now, you would know better than us, James. We were linked with Abdul Fatawi in the summer.
He's a very good player.
Yeah, young. He plays as an attacking sort of right midfielder. Could he be somebody that we go back for in January? Leicester look like they are not getting promoted, and it might be in their mind about making some money to cover some losses if they got another season in the Championship.
And
so I don't know how true those links
were. They could get a point deduction as well.
Yeah, I don't know how true it is that we were linked with him, but that wouldn't be a surprise if we went back there. He fits our profile.
He's another one as well that he has been linked multiple times, and I always think when the names keep cropping up that there has to be sort of something in it in terms of an interest from Sunderland's end, and he's done decent numbers in the Championship. I think he's got 3 goals in 9. It feels like a gettable target, doesn't he? But that I'd imagine bows there'd be competition because, as you say, he's pretty good, and he does have a little bit of experience in the Premier League with Leicester, doesn't he? He played a touch last season, not loads, but he's the right age. He fits the sort of profile, doesn't he? And he would add depth.
Yeah, he would. I think another thing to point out, because I still watch quite a bit of the Championship, and from what I've seen of Leicester, they very much look like. If you remember how good we were saying Leicester looked, how good is it seeing the Premier League table there on TNT and see Sunderland fourth? Whether we're there in a couple of hours' time, I don't know. But no, what I was going to say, having watched it, you remember how good Leicester appeared to be when you look at the parachute team the year we finished 16th. Yep. But you look at like Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, and obviously, although they weren't a parachute side, Ipswich at the time, how the top end of that division was freakishly good that year, in my opinion. But the point I'm getting at is Leicester this season look a shadow of the team that they were that year, and they look very much like a team of individuals rather than a team, if that makes sense. So I think, to me, if Leicester, Leicester, how many points are they off the playoffs? This is the weird thing. They're 5 points off the top 6, but obviously they lost to Sheffield United yesterday. So that, for me, is quite telling, really. And like Taff said there, they don't look like they're going to get promoted anytime soon if this continues. So Cifuentes, he's a competent Championship manager, but he's getting under a little, there's a bit more grumblings there, really, at the moment. So, and especially if they get a points deduction, which is looking more and more likely could be happening, then it looks even less likely they go up. So, like you said, their PSR situation is not great, is it? So I think they would probably think, well, he's one of the assets we could cash in on and get a bit of money for. So it just all depends. Just quickly, I want to ask this, and this is not relevant to Sunderland, but it's just a point that I'm keen to point. Phil did a video last week on Premier League changing PSR to SCR. Is that applicable for the EFL as well, or is it just the Premier League? So is the EFL still going to have PSR next season?
I believe it's just the Premier League so far, isn't the EFL have a different set of rules to adhere to? I can't remember exactly what it's called. But
relevant to us, but
no, I can't remember exactly what it's called. But the EFL have their own financial rules in place, I believe.
Remember, Michael. Look up, Michael. Look up. Stop looking down.
Hey, Taff, it could be relevant to us. It could be that other teams maybe are in trouble. They need to sell players for cheaper prices.
Really interesting question, actually, here from Taffy Mackham on YouTube. He says, does anybody think the £25 million we got for Jobe is proving to be a great bit of business? Loved him, but don't think he would be dynamic enough for this team. I'll throw this to you, Taff. He's a player I really like, Jobe. I thought he was excellent last season, but selling him has allowed us to sort of move this team on a little bit, I would suggest.
Yeah, you sell him for 25 million. If you hand out 5-year contracts, then you multiply that by 5 times, and that allows you to spend 125 million. That sale is crucial to our summer. And then the easy way to answer this question is: here comes the January transfer window. Would you sign him for our team now?
I would have him, but I don't think he starts.
Yeah,
no. And what would you have to pay to get him now? You'd have to pay 15, 20 million, perhaps. I don't think I'd be signing him, frankly.
Really expensive.
No, it's not a position we need, is it?
No. So in that sense, it's a great bit of business. It allowed our summer, and he's not somebody who I think would currently get into the team. What we swapped him for Habib Diarra, who I think is a better player, and like 1 year older. And we've also picked up for less than him Noah Siddiqui, who I think has a higher ceiling. So no, I think it's a tremendous bit of business. Yeah, I mean, I like the lad. He's really good. I would have liked him to have stayed, but if he stays, we don't get Diarra. I think Diarra's an upgrade. So yeah, tremendous bit of business. Very fortunate. It makes all of the summer possible. So yeah, great stuff.
And there aren't many players, Michael, that are like Noah Siddiqui. So when you get one, it's important to keep, because he's just so good in his work rate, isn't he? I'm not saying Jobe was lazy by any means, because he wasn't, but just his ability to get around the pitch is unrivaled, really, in anything I've seen at Sunderland. He's so good at it.
Yeah, I think wondering about those that Conor Gallagher links that you kept talking about. I know there's nothing official there, but if there were anything official, I wonder how much of an influence Reynildo had in that squad, because he has a big influence in our team on the squad, and you wonder if he had a big influence there. A lovely phone call might work.
Well, who knows?
These things happen in football.
Actually, I was just going to say, the point I was going to make ties into what SJ's just said. How much is Siddiqui worth now? If you sign someone like, let's pretend for a second that there is something in Conor Gallagher, even though there hasn't been any links, and maybe Sunderland have sneakily done the work behind the scenes and they're willing to just announce it on January the 1st. I don't know. Let's pretend for a second, right? If, say, 30 million euros was the figure I saw, bearing in mind the one thing I've noticed since we've gone up to the Premier League, the amount of BS articles tend to be going up through the roof. Obviously, not James at the Sunderland Echo, of course, but like general other publications. There's a lot more.
Many would disagree with that. Many would disagree with that.
Well, but the point I was going to make was, let's say for a second you sign Guendouzi or Gallagher, for example. What about if, say, Siddiqui or Diarra then hypothetically got sold next summer for a huge fee, and then you've already got players, someone like a Gallagher or a Guendouzi, in through the door at a cheaper price than what you're going to get for Siddiqui or Diarra, for example, again, hypothetically in the summer. How much the same players they are, I don't know. Obviously, they could be very different profiles, but for me, I think that it would. So the point I was going to get at was, it's good to see that there could be a bit of long-term planning there. And I think I forgot what the main point was now. I've waffled so much. But
how much is Noah Siddiqui worth?
Well, okay. Yeah, generally about 60-odd million now, I think. Maybe I'm being maybe I'm being a bit harsh with that, being a bit low with that fee, but because a lot of people tend to overinflate their own players, but today's day and age, yeah. And bear in mind, he's on a 5-year contract as well.
And he's so unique in what he does, though. You don't see many players like him. I think that's it. His value would come from him being exceptional, obviously, and being a very good football player. But I just think his attributes are something you don't necessarily always see, and that really makes him stand out for me.
And again, a key thing, under contract till 2030 as well.
I don't think he's a £65 million player yet. I think he will be, for sure, and possibly more, but I don't think he is yet. I think people look at that. I'm not sure he gets sold or even bid for at the level that would entertain a sale in the summer.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah, but if he has another season where he improves even just a little bit, then I think we don't hold on to him. I think he then maybe goes for that sort of big money, not this summer, but the summer after, for sure.
Well, we'll round it up pretty shortly, but I wanted to touch upon Habib Diarra, actually, Taff, because, and it's a bit of a cliche, this, but when he comes back, he's going to feel sort of like a new signing, isn't he, really? And hopefully he can remain fit. But, he's such a good player. He costs so much money. We've seen how decent he can be. If he gets a run of games, I mean, that midfield picture, again, really, really changes.
Yeah, it's we've missed him, I think, because his position in the team was the progressive driving midfielder, and we've missed that when he's been gone. And I don't think we saw the best of him. Everybody was there were loads of new players. Everyone was just sort of getting into the team and getting going. And when he got injured, I don't think he walked straight back into the team. He's going to need time to integrate. You will know more than us about how close he is to being fit, whether he's training with the team again, whether he's on grass again. I'm sure that these things will be released when they happen, because everyone's quite excited to know. But I don't know. Does he even go to AFCON if he's not fit and he hasn't played anything? It'd be tremendous if he didn't. So I don't know. He's going to be like a world-class signing when he gets back again, but he will take time to get fit. But we are going to be awesome after AFCON, remember? We're a
Yes,
Triple A
we are.
side.
And
That phrase has
we
been
are
living
looking
rent-free
up.
in my head recently.
We are looking up, not down. If there's one thing I've learned from the podcast today, it's that we are looking up, not down.
Well, I'll look up once we get the 40 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll end it there because we've gone over an hour there, but really enjoyable live Q&A. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. Taff, Michael, please tell us where we can find your latest content, what you're up to, what you've got planned.
Go on, Taff, you go first, mate.
Right. Well, I am alt-ending on YouTube. I do some stuff with Connor Bromley. We do a propaganda episode, which you were invited on, Michael. Maybe we can get you onto that at some point.
Yes, that would be lovely. That would be absolutely lovely.
And we do previews and reviews like everybody else. I'm also SAFC Highlights on Twitter, where I try to make mischief.
Who doesn't love a bit of Twitter mischief every now and again? Michael, what have you got coming up?
Should we just say Enzo Maresca is probably not Taff's biggest fan? Great content for the both of you. No, mine's just Michael Bowers. You can just type my name, Michael Bowers, then Sunderland. You'll see me on there. I'm trying to get, I think he's at 7,000 subs now. I think is the next target I'm trying to get. I'm still some way off, but it'll be appreciated if you're able to subscribe to us and like the videos. It'll be much appreciated. But no, thanks to James for having me, and thanks to Taff for coming on as well. It's been another great episode. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I'll quickly run through a few shout outs. Thank you to Richard, Kev, Tony, Taffy Mac and Mr. Bojingles. We've got Rob SAFC, SJ 30,000, I think that is. We've got a different Kev. We've got Billy Morgan. We've got Lexi as well. Coffee Goblin, Las Palmas, Mackham. The list goes on and on. Lee Reed, Wolsey. So thank you to everybody who's sent in questions. Very much appreciated. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks to Taff. Thanks to Michael. See you soon.
Yeah.